Let me ask you this. Have you ever rolled out a new plan, one that was crystal clear, organized, perfectly thought out, and 2 weeks later, it's like the team's running in slow motion? They nodded in the meeting. They said they understood. You got no resistance at that time. There's no questions. We're ready to go. But when it came time to execute, you ended up with a half-hearted effort, maybe even sloppy follow-through, or there was just zero fire in the belly about this. And that's not a motivation problem. Yeah, that's what I said. It's not a motivation problem. It's a leadership communication problem. Because here's the truth. When your team doesn't understand the why, they'll never fully buy in. And likely if things aren't happening the way you want them to in execution with your team, it is almost all the time the missing element of the communication, the why. It's the engine that powers commitment. Without it, your people might turn the key, but that engine never really fires. So today, I'm going to break down the one simple thing that changes everything. How explaining the why behind what you're asking builds buy-in. It builds trust. And in time, an unstoppable team momentum. But before we get into it, please make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button so you never miss an episode of the Business Mechanic Show. And please, come to my website, rdltraining.com, where you can download the free leadership competency assessment. I've also put a link to it in the show notes. It's a tool that helps you identify your strengths, spot your blind spots, and level up your leadership. So let's get back to the why. Why the why is everything. Let me say it straight. Most managers are great at telling their team what to do. Here's the goal, here's the plan, here's the deadline, but leadership isn't always about giving orders. You have to keep in mind you must provide purpose. You must give purpose to your team. And when your team doesn't understand fully the why something matters, they don't always connect to it. You're getting compliance, not commitment. They'll do the work, sure, but they're just not bought into it. They're going to do it without conviction, without urgency. They're a little rudderless around it, meaning they don't have ownership. But here's the magic. The moment you start explaining why the buy-in changes, almost instantly. People don't commit to tasks, they commit to purpose. Please remember, that's one of the biggest slip-ups I see managers evolving to true leaders. What's slowing them down is they forget that they need to get their team committed to purpose. And almost always, when they know why, they get the purpose. They don't just execute, they engage. So why do so many managers skip the why? And to be honest, most managers don't skip the why because they don't care. They skip it because they're in a rush. They're under pressure. They got stuff to do. They're busy people. They think we don't have time for about a bunch of extra explanation. They just should know why. Or maybe they don't even themselves question the why. They salute and execute. But most often they assume that the team will get it. They already know. Or worse, they don't know why themselves. And that's where everything starts to unravel. Heck, your boss may not even explain the why to you. Don't use that as a reason why you shouldn't. You need to find out the why for yourself so you can be fully committed as well. But more importantly, or just as importantly, I guess I should say, so you can explain it to your team. Because every minute you have skipping the why, if you're in a rush, I just need to get out here and get it going. Every minute you're skipping the why is a minute you'll be spending fixing it later. You'll be fixing confusion. You'll be fixing frustration and disengagement or just misdirection or misunderstanding. If you don't know the why, it's your job to go find out. Please go ask questions, get clarity. Put down your fear of looking insufficient. Go find out the why. And I'm telling you, many bosses, including CEOs, business owners, presidents that I work with, I have to really work with them too on explaining the why. This doesn't come into modern day vernacular very often. And that's why you're listening to this show, to get these helpful tips to improve your leadership quality. So if you can't explain the why, you are not going to be able to lead it. So go get the why yourself. Vaughn, why is this so important? What happens when you don't explain the why? When you skip the why, your people fill in the blanks with their own assumptions, perceptions. And those assumptions likely aren't going to be very positive. They think, oh my God, this doesn't make any sense. This is so dumb. Or why do they keep changing their mind all the time? It's a new thing every week. Oh, darn, I'm going to waste my time on something else again that'll never happen. You know that happens. If it doesn't happen regularly, it does happen. I see it all the time. Confusion kills motivation faster than any workload ever could. Your job as a leader is to make sure that the why is loud and clear every single time. So let me give you a couple real-world examples. And let's call it the process change. This is a regular occurrence. You announce, we're switching to a new software system next week, y'all. That's the what. The team internally groans. Right, okay, more work, another change. But now, let's add the why. Okay, team, we're switching to a new software system next week because the old system doesn't allow us to track updates in real time. You know how that messes you up from time to time, that we sometimes are missing data or missing information? This new one will eliminate those missed handoffs and save us a ton of hours and reworks every week. Sounds good, doesn't it? Now they get it. You've moved from potentially frustrating them to helping them focus on what's in it for them. The why turns inconvenience into improvement in their minds, and that's who matters. Here's another example, the strategy shift. The company pivots direction mid-quarter. Happens all the time. You tell your team, we're changing focus effective immediately. And they're like, oh my God, here it comes again. All their work they've been doing just got tossed out the window again. But what if you said instead, hey y'all, we're shifting strategy because market data just came in. It shows demand moving in a new direction, and we don't want to miss these opportunities. This pivot in focus positions us to stay competitive instead of reactive. That explanation gives them confidence. It connects them and their work to the bigger mission, to success. That's what leaders do. Translate confusion into clarity, misconceptions into real-world understanding. So let me give you just a 4-step script that includes the why. This is the formula. 4 steps. And by the way, this is a blog on my website, rdltraining.com. If you want to read it so you have all this, go there and take a look at it, download it. So here's the 4-step methodology behind this. 1, state the what. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're changing. This is what we're asking. Then 2, explain the why. Here's why it matters. We need to begin doing this. We found out this has happened, that's happened. The why. And then you want to connect that to the mission. Here's how it's going to help you and help the company achieve our goals. So state the what, explain the why, connect to the mission, and then number 4, this often gets skipped too. Invite ownership. Here's what I need from you and why it's important. Now I need to know your thoughts. And you want to start creating the pool of collective knowledge that I talk about all the time. Start asking questions. Okay, y'all, Jennifer, what's going to hold you back from doing this? Sam, tell me what's going to go wrong. Eddie, how does this come across as a big pain in the butt? Is it confusing? Okay, team, how would you like to implement this? Let me have your ideas. Susie, Tom, what are we going to need to implement this? What ideas do you have? Not do you have any ideas? What ideas do you have? Always in a open-ended format. How would you like to implement this? What other tools do you need? What other explanation you need? What's going to go wrong? What's been your experience with something like this? Etc. Ask questions. Create that pool of collective thought. Let me string all this together in one example. Okay, team, starting next week, we're testing a new customer follow-up process. Now, the reason is we've noticed a 20% drop in repeat sales, and data shows our follow-up time in is it's off. We're just not where we need to be on that. So the new system is going to make it easier. It's going to help us re-engage customers faster. And I'd love your feedback after week one on what's working and what isn't. So we'll get back together next week and talk about it. Now, before we launch it, I need to know your thoughts on kicking this off. Jennifer, have you done this before? What did you learn? Okay, y'all, what do we need to think about before we implement this? What's confusing? What else am I not explaining to you today? That message checks every leadership box. Clarity, context, collaboration. Yes, and it takes more time. But like I said previously, it saves you a ton of time in fixing things and chasing down misdirections and misunderstandings or just a lack of follow-through. So your mindset needs to shift. Begin asking yourself this question before every meeting, before every interaction with your team or team members, maybe even your boss. Anytime you're getting an update or conveying an update, anytime you're receiving an announcement or conveying an announcement. If we're on the receiving end of this message, would I understand why it matters? That's the mindset shift. Is I now have to convince a group of people to make this change. Do I know how to explain to them why this matters? Why is this important? If the answer is no, don't tell them. Don't speak yet. Ask the question. Get your own why. Understand the why in your mind. Leaders who operate this way don't just give orders. They inspire ownership. They create teams that don't wait for direction or become passively aggressive and just slow roll you because they truly don't buy into this. Because when you make this change, they understand the destination, the purpose, the reason. And when you don't know the why, and again, that's very often the case. Maybe your boss is not very good at this. Often you're getting pressure from higher up. And maybe the strategy changed overnight. And this happens. It happens all the time. Maybe you're being told to execute without full visibility. And again, hell, your bosses probably suck at this. Help them by start asking these questions. Do yourself a favor, please. Put down your hesitancy to ask for your why and ask. Go get it. It's going to help you so much, and it's going to, in the end, help your team and your organization so much. So here's what to do. If you don't know why, be honest. Hey, boss, I don't have all the details yet, but here's what I know. Please fill in the blanks for me. And then you need to take ownership. As their leader, you need to take ownership. And if you present it to them and they ask questions that you're not able to answer, as you're creating the pool of collective thought, and they bring something out, you just don't have an answer to, you're going to have to go get it. Let me go get the clarity and I'll bring it back to you. Let's just hit the pause button on this. Give them what they need. Yes, it's extra time, but you must do it. And then you want to show commitment. You must be committed. And it's okay to even say to them, listen, I understand that the shift is frustrating, but our goal isn't changed. We're driving towards the same mission, just in a slightly different vehicle. That level of transparency is genuine, and it builds credibility, trust, respect. Yeah, you not knowing something builds trust. When you go get the answer and bring it back, that builds respect. Don't go into it half-cocked yourself, because if you're half-cocked, your team is half of a half-cocked. And listen, not every decision is a popular decision, and that's another big leadership trait. Is very often courageous leadership has to come into play, and you have to make difficult decisions or ask difficult tasks out of people, changes out of people. And they may not love the situation, but if they respect you and trust you and you've been honest with them, they're going to trust your leadership, and they're going to trust it long enough to give it a go until they see the improvements, and they will. All of this why is simple, it's powerful, and now you know what it sounds like. But I want to add one more little thing about the psychology of buy-in. Because when you explain the why, that creates buy-in. When you explain the why, you activate the part of the brain responsible for meaning and motivation. Yeah, it's a complex tool, our brains. So you need to activate the very important part of our brains, which is motivation and meaning. Very important and very often skipped. Because you don't want to force compliance. You want to inspire ownership. Makes your job infinitely easier. And when your people know how their work moves the needle, how their contribution, their change, their commitment to this is good for not only them, your team, you, but the whole organization, they're going to move faster. They're going to think smarter. The more you ask and include them in that pool of collective knowledge, they're going to care more because you're showing them a great deal of respect and trust, and you appreciate their opinion. At work, my opinions seem to count. But very often, which is a very important part of engagement, but very often I see companies who invest in engagement surveys. That's the one question. At work, my opinion seems to count. It's one of two things when you get low scores on that. You should be able to get a 5 easily at zero cost on that question. But most companies don't. They get 3s and 4s on that. Rarely 5s, which is the top score you can get. They do it because they never ask. They respond, your team is disengaged because bosses rarely ask their opinions. Or if an opinion is volunteered, often it's not requested or asked for, it's volunteered, and it's dismissed because you're in a rush to get going. Or you're not considering where that question or thought is coming from. Slow down, respect them, respect their opinions. Because if you dismiss it, they're going to go into the mission with doubt and certainly with a lack of full buy-in. If you're not asking for it, you're going to 100% every time risk a lack of buy-in and commitment and change and execution. So you have to ask. Tell them the why. Get them bought in with a lot of questions. When things change, and they always do, under those 4 steps that I shared with you, changes don't crumble. Your teams don't crumble. They adapt because now they understand the mission. I'm bought into it. You've taken my opinion into account, or at least you've heard me out. You're not just sharing an order. So the mind shift change. If you want to go from manager to leader, you've got to start seeing communications as a connection, not an instruction. That sounds so simple. Let me say that again. Communication needs to be connection, not instruction. Ask yourself before interactions with your team members, every meeting, announcement, if I were on the receiving end of this, would I understand clearly why it matters? If the answer is not a very clear no, or you assume that your team will know this, don't speak on it yet. Don't share it with them. Make sure you're fully aware and embrace the why. That discipline, that extra 90 seconds of explanation is what separates managers who talk from leaders who inspire. So, wrapping this up, when you give your team the what, they'll follow. You'll get compliance to some degree. When you give them the why, they believe. And that belief is the spark that drives ownership, performance, and an amazing culture. So starting today, this week, as soon as possible, the next time you're assigning a task or rolling out a change, stop, think about my 4 steps, take a deep breath, and remember, they don't need more direction. They need more connection. That's how you build a team that doesn't just do the work, they own the work. So here's your tune-up checklist. 1, always explain the why. 2, lead with clarity, not authority. Clarity, not authority. And number 3, replace compliance with commitment. Now, that's it. Thanks for listening. If this episode hit home, like, share, and subscribe to the Business Mechanic Show. It helps others find us. If you found this helpful, let's let some others benefit from it too. And that simple little move on your part would be much appreciated. We can get to more leaders and get these same tools that you're benefiting from. And before you go, all in my show notes, do this. It's great. A lot of people did this as I introduced this last week. Download and complete the Leadership Competency Assessment. It's in the show notes. Download that. And that way it's the 7 leadership qualities that matter. And you can rate yourself on those 7 competencies and understand where your strengths are. That's really important. Where are you coming up a little short? And very often the thing I talked about with you today, the why, is one of those areas. Most managers have an idea of their strengths, but they have blind spots. And those blind spots often go unnoticed. And this assessment gives you a clear picture of where you stand. It helps you focus on what truly drives stronger leadership. And you'll discover which skills set you apart. Where are you badass? And where are you maybe being held back yourself? And knowing the exact areas through this assessment, and you'll discover them. It's very well designed to focus on becoming more effective. Pretty simple. Takes a few minutes. And for any of you managers who want to keep growing, learning, evolving, keeping those wheels turning, it's designed for you. The ones who want to inspire their team, earn trust, and step fully into that role of a confident, capable leader. So check it out in the show notes. Visit the website rdltraining.com right now and take that first step towards transforming how you lead. It's been Vaughn Sigmund. Until next time, keep tightening up your leadership engine and drive it like a pro.